Right, so Mudd is mad, Burnham is emoting, Stamets needs to lay off the mushrooms. However, larger story arc elements are still present. Burnham's slow humanizing is ongoing. Stamets seems delightfully battered, which cannot stand for long. It is possible that the spore drive will eventually break him. And despite Lorca's rough edges and harsher viewpoints, we see him take a bit of a back seat in this episode. Also, Rainn Wilson is a lot of fun as Harry Mudd. No doubt he will be aboard Discovery again in the not-too-distant future. Aw, man, how do you stop this thing? Thank you for watching. If you like this and other Trexpertise videos, then consider supporting the channel over on Patreon. It is the best way for you to help create more Trexpertise. You can find the link to our Patreon page in the subspace below. We'll see you next week. And do check out this video essay on how science fiction, and specifically Star Trek, might just be the epic poem of our times. Thank you.
遠い将来を考えてみようよ。
Welcome to another Trexpertise review and analysis of Star Trek Discovery, where everything is normal and the flow of time is never disrupted. This week, we take a look at Discovery's Episode 7, Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad, which is a quote from Homer's Iliad. A quick pause to plug our video essay Epic Trek, which talks about Homer and Star Trek a bunch. Okay, let's briefly cover just what happened with this episode. But first, spoilers and corrections. Before we move on, we'd like to set the record straight on interstellar Vulcan telepathy. Previously, we mentioned that the long-distance telepathic Katra connection between Sarek and Burnham was an innovation added by Discovery. This isn't strictly true. The precedent for this sort of thing was set in previous Trek, like when Spock felt an entire Federation starship full of Vulcans suddenly die, the USS Intrepid, and when Trip and T'Pol are separated in Affliction, an Enterprise episode. So not an innovation, but definitely as believable as the Vulcan mind meld. Now that this is straightened out, let's take a brief tour of Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. So it's time loop time, again. Routine is helping Michael Burnham settle in, but she still feels like an outsider. The crew unwinds with a much-needed party to break up the drudgery of the war. It's nice to see all these young cadets getting down with the classical music, in this case, Wyclef Jean's 260-year-old remix of the disco song Stayin' Alive by the Bee Gees. Do you get it? Disco? Also, Wyclef Jean is now Canon. Hell yeah. Also, Tilly is bae. Get used to it. We get some lovely awkwardness between Burnham and Tyler. Stamets' personality change might be permanent. And we get to meet a Gormagander, a kind of space whale.
There'll be whales here!
Or maybe it's a Pokemon. Hold on, there's a dude in that space whale. Uh-oh. Harry Mudd is back and he's weaponized a time loop. The Discovery is stuck in Mudd's time loop, but Stamets, who is high on multi-dimensional mushrooms, is the only one who realizes what's happening. Through successive loops, Stamets enlists the crew's help in defeating Harry Mudd, but not before we get to see Stamets teach Burnham how to dance, and Tyler in Burnham's first kiss. Ah, come on, not again. And this great montage of Captain Lorca's mini-deaths. Here we go, again. So, Discovery's trapped in a time loop, Harry Mudd, first kiss, the captain dies a lot, you remember, right? Now, let's move on to the meat of what we've learned in this episode. We all suspect Ash Tyler of being a Klingon spy. His introduction onto the show coinciding with Vok's disappearance is very suspicious, and the writers are doing their best to continually remind us of our suspicion, which leads to an obvious counter-suspicion. But is Tyler even aware that he might be a spy? Seriously, either he isn't a spy or he's playing a really long game and the Klingons want more than just Discovery. Or maybe Vok has no idea he's not human. Maybe Tyler is the ultimate sleeper agent and he doesn't even realize it. He's just waiting to be activated later in the season. Or maybe Tyler is aware that he's actually Vok and he's just waiting for the best time to challenge Cole, who seems to have stolen Vok's initiative of uniting the Klingon Empire. I think I speak for viewers when I say I hope Tyler is human, because if he turns out to be a Klingon spy, then this is really going to hurt. Discovery is taking the slow path on Michael Burnham's human awakening. It took the events around the destruction of the Senjo to pierce Burnham's logic bubble. Pure logic can sometimes lead to the wrong conclusion in any particular context. Her belief in Vulcan logic and the suppression of her own human emotions was instilled into her as a child by Sarek, and perhaps part of her allegiance to the Vulcan belief structure is down to a desire to please her adoptive father. However, Burnham witnesses that trained emotional suppression sometimes fails, even in Vulcans like Sarek. She is realizing that maybe the Vulcan belief structure is failing her, and her adoptive parents are fallible. These are often big, slow revelations for a character and are quite typically the hallmarks of young adulthood. They take time to process. All that Burnham is left with is her human heritage, and she has very little experience in this realm. Previously, we've seen how Michael handles her emotions by applying logic to them. You can see this in much of her previous behavior. But now she is questioning her worldview and trying to be honest with herself, a sentiment reinforced by some of her new friends on Discovery. She is taking her adoptive mother's advice and nurturing her human side, and it is leading to the exploration of new territory for Burnham. Oh boy, here it comes. Michael is smart enough to realize her internal conflict, but naive on how she should proceed. Maybe she needs other people to teach her. You better not be a Klingon, Tyler. Alas, I still haven't managed to beat this thing. So Mudd is taking over the ship, Stamets has a multi-dimensional dimension, Burnham has feelings, Tyler may or may not still be a Klingon, again. And now let's take a brief look at the canon references and nods that we see in this episode. For starters, this map has lots of goodies in it. We also get what is presumably an Andorian space helmet. Kind of scary, really. Alpha Centauri is mentioned, which is a real-life star system closest to our own solar system, and it's a place where Zephram Cochrane will live one day. The Betazoids get a nice name drop, and of course, it is still really easy to blow up starships, which seems to be a universal constant in the Star Trek multiverse. Overall, this was a really fun episode for Discovery, which, despite the ongoing war arc, is basically a self-contained story in the vein of The Next Generation's Cause and Effect.